On January 5th, 2016, adequate notice of this meeting pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act has been furnished by inclusion thereof in the annual schedule of meetings for 2016, which has been posted on the bulletin board in Borough Hall, filed with the Borough Clerk, faxed to the Our Town Record and the Community News newspapers, and distributed to all persons offending requesting copies of same pursuant to said act. In case of an emergency or fire alarm, you must evacuate the building by using any of the exit doors in the room. They're immediately to my right, and the double doors at the rear of the room. Occupants must exit the building by using the staircase and not the elevator. This meeting is being recorded by both video and audio and may be rebroadcast.
Would everyone please join me in saluting the flag?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mayor Fabrega.
Here.
Council members Padovano.
Here.
Trevino.
Here.
DeHere.
Here.
Messer.
Here.
Maroney. Here. Lindenau.
Here.
Borough Attorney Ronald Daria.
Here.
Borough Administrator Roberta Stern.
Here.
Borough Clerk Jean Pellegrin is present.
All right, we have Assemblyman Tim Hughes. If you'd like to make a presentation to us, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. I'm going to ask, Mike is the planner and EDA official from Passaic County. He's going to be joining me. I just want to make a few brief statements, and then he'll go over the maps with you. First, Happy Chinese New Year.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoy your Fat Tuesday, and we don't get the Snowmageddon tonight. I'm encouraged to see that you draw the same size crowds I did. Right? But I was wondering if the cop's here for me or Joey. Sorry. So, I'm here tonight to share an idea with you, and if you like the idea, I'm going to ask you to do a resolution in support of the idea. Certainly, most of you have heard about the redevelopment site that we've been talking about for years here in Maywood. In that site is the fuse wrap site, which is due to be cleaned up any day now. It's a joke, guys. Right? It was supposed to be finished in 2016. I don't know what year it is, but it's not done. But that property is owned by the federal government, and our hope is to cajole our congressman to turn that property over to the borough of Maywood at some point in the near future once it's cleaned up, and be able to have Maywood have a full redevelopment site. Now, I know you probably know we've been working on the redevelopment for a long, long time, and that's probably the most important piece of property in town as far as the future of the borough of Maywood. One of the adages always pointed out is one thing they're not making more of is land. Right? So this land is vital to this town. One of the things that's vital to the state of New Jersey is public transportation. And what the state and the federal government are looking at are better ways to get people from point A to point B. At this point in Bergen County, many of you know there's no way to get east to west. And there's very sad state of public transportation. If you talk about trains or buses, you can't get there from here, especially if you live in Maywood. And there are lots of commuters in the borough of Maywood. The future of Maywood should include more commuters. When your former mayor, Greg, and I sat on the redevelopment committee, we talked about the idea of having what's called a transit hub at the redevelopment site. The idea being that you have a sort of multi-level approach to something that you would see in any of the cities in Europe, where you have retail on your first floor of the building, you have professional on the second floor of the building, and the possibility of residential on the third to fifth floor or anything like that. That would essentially face Route 17 and have a train stop there so that people could get on and get off. We could have commerce, we could have residential, we could have people coming and going through Maywood. I think it's a win-win for the town of Maywood. Well, this was off the boards for a long, long time because Route 17 has a bottleneck in it. Right now, New Jersey is talking about fixing some of our bridges, believe it or not, and I know some of you know that they told us originally that would never happen. So, along with these ideas of the future moving along, I would like us to keep our foot in the door as things move towards the future. If Congress is talking about helping us put a passenger rail line through Maywood, we should have a passenger stop. Rochelle Park is not interested in the passenger stop. If we're redeveloping that site, it would be prime for developers to know that we were looking at a future stop in Maywood. That's what I'm here to present to you and ask you not just to be stewards of your community, to be visionaries for your community and think of how this will help not just us, but our kids be able to stay in this town. Because ratables, although they're not a fix-all, they're not a panacea, we have to find a way to make the tax base work better. And this is one of the ways I think we can help each other by tagging onto this project. And the more towns that say this, we think this is a good idea, the more Congress is going to say maybe it's a good idea to fund this. This is not an immediate plan. The immediate plan is the rail line that should go to Englewood, from what I understand. But this plan will include the rail line that goes from Hackensack. The plan includes the rail line that goes from Hackensack to Patterson. And I'd like for us to be on that. And I'm hoping I convince you to be people that think it's a good idea for us to be on that line. We should be the passenger depot on that line. That's my presentation. I'll ask Mike to tag on if you don't mind. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you to the mayor and council for letting me speak tonight. My name is Michael Lissicatos. I'm the Assistant Director of Planning and Economic Development in Passaic County. And as you heard, we're trying to move forward with a plan that you've probably heard in the past, which is reactivation of the passenger service that historically was there on the NYS&W corridor. The passenger service ran up until the late 60s. At that point, the freight companies paid everyone basically to stop taking the passenger line and went to freight only. Around 2005, we were actually ready for construction on the first phase, which was going to run from Hawthorne, which has a transfer to the main line, to Hackensack, and we all know what happened with the fiscal crisis and really what that did for funding of a lot of these big projects. So what we've done is really go back to the drawing board in a sense and look and re-envision the project and really look at a lot of the national goals and some of the local goals and how does this work as a rail line that really connects people. I think you heard that already about the connections east and west and to the various rail lines that cross this, and that's something that North Jersey is sorely missing at this point. So we've envisioned the second phase, and I've given you a series of maps. The first one shows the blue and the red. That's the first and second phase that we're really looking at as one whole project at this point. To connect to Tunnelly Ave, which will connect to the northern branch of the Hudson-Bergen Light Rail and the existing parts of the Hudson-Bergen Light Rail, which essentially end in Jersey City. So this is an interstate commerce, transit-oriented development plan, and it really allows all of the local communities in Passaic County, Bergen County, and Hudson County to start focusing on the commerce between them and connecting the people that right now are really forced into those north-south routes, whether it's by rail or by car. It's no secret that the capacity issues on our highways are ever present, whether it's Route 17 or 287 or Route 4. We're seeing it all over the state, and we're not going to get a whole lot of highway expansion projects, but we would potentially get those bridge dollars. And what the ideal fit for Maywood really is that you can work on that Route 17 bridge over the train station and use some of those dollars to set up the foundation for a future passenger rail stop that will work into that transit-oriented development that I know has been on the books for some time now. So what we've done in the last year is pull together a consortium of government entities, nonprofits, private developers, anyone that's really interested in this project and kickstarting it back up into what we're calling the North Jersey Rail Coalition. It's the three counties working together to move forward these rail projects, whether it's the northern branch, which we know is ready for construction, or this project, which is ready for funding to do the design. We're really looking to get everybody on the same page, which is one of the real caveats of the federal process. If we are going to get anywhere with the federal process, everyone really has to be on board and supportive. And by adding the second phase of this project, we really see it hitting those marks as far as ridership, transit-oriented development, and really making a difference in North Jersey. Some of the other pages on here will focus on what's already happening, whether it's in Hackensack or Patterson. and ultimately Hawthorne, which is the transfer with Passaic Bergen main line right now, that's on the second page. And it really shows what's the opportunity for the rail line, what's actually happening right now. Hackensack is in the midst of several redevelopment plans and several thousands of square feet of approved projects that are already going into the ground around State Street. So we already see that this investment is changing the way that people are thinking about developing their communities, the way the developers are actually working their projects. They're looking for this. They're looking for things that have transit investments and are attracting different demographics from all over the state. So really, I came here to explain it to you, take any questions that you might have, and really leave the concept for you to potentially support through a resolution. We've already had all the townships in Passaic County. We're working with Bergen County to get a resolution on their end, and ultimately we'll be meeting with Hudson County shortly. We've already spoken with Jersey City as well, and they're very supportive of the project. Anything that'll bring more people to work in Jersey City or possibly live in Jersey City is a big attraction for them. They're really a transit-oriented city in New Jersey and really ready to make that big jump in growth past Newark. So we really want to be leveraged to be able to work with them and profit off of that, whether it's building our communities or building more businesses. So.
Can I tag on here, Mr. Mayor, for just a minute? The last time this project was proposed, it was a light rail project, which would involve building an entire new infrastructure, building new tracks, buying new trains, and having the train cars, I think, were about $2 million a piece, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
about that.
Yeah, and this is done on the same sort of track. It's done on the same rail. It's not rebuilding the system. It's using the existing system and just working with what we have, repairing the system we have, as opposed to reinventing the wheel. So it'll be less expensive and have a better chance of going forward. The last idea was trashing everything and going with totally different technology, which I think was kind of almost absurd. We already had track. You follow what I'm saying? So I think this is a better approach. It already exists, and all we have to do is get the clearances, clean up the tracks, and get these cars on.
So what kind of time frame are you looking at?
The biggest thing we're looking right now is working with a lot of the activities that are going on with the State Transportation Trust Fund. We're really looking to secure the design money right now, and that's a big part of getting the resolutions of support. We want to show that the communities are in support of this and really want to start looking at where do we put the stations. Let's get the detail worked out. So that's really the next stage for us, is try to secure the design money within the next year or so. I think that's our prime directive right now, and also help with the northern branch. If we can push that into the construction phase, it makes this project make even more sense and attracts even more riders.
So if there wasn't a stop in Maywood, how does that affect the overall project?
Well, I think it would affect the overall project in that it would basically remove some of the potential for riders, and that's some of the big things that the federal and local and state officials are looking at when they look at these projects. They want to see how much ridership is generated for their cost of operating the service. So as many stations that can be located, and also local master plans or redevelopment plans that center around those visions, that's a huge plus for them, because it shows that people are going to be looking to invest and add to that ridership.
So,
Well, if I could, if you're talking about timing, we're talking about...
I'm talking about more, my thought process is more of, are you looking, if Maywood didn't do anything, say, would this train still come through?
Possibly. Well, it would be designed to come through. It would still come through because ultimately we do want to connect with Tunnelly Ave. Whether there's a station or not, it would still follow that rail corridor. I think as was described, that rail corridor is already there. The right-of-way is already there, which is a huge hurdle. A lot of rail projects are looking to invent the line and find where to go. We already have it. It's right there and it's operating. So it would still pass through. It just wouldn't stop. So that's the difference between the two.
I guess my only concern would be the traffic pattern and how it would affect how congested it would get.
Right. And that is part of the design process and a really important aspect of getting those design dollars, to find out what are the impacts, and how do you mitigate the impacts? Because ultimately, many of them can be mitigated. We see this all over the state with light rail projects, whether it's in Hudson County, within Jersey City itself, and they've worked around those problems, and the offsets when it comes to the development they've been able to draw and get those cars off the road has been a big plus for them. So that could work in the benefit of that as well.
Getting back to what I was saying, considering that, as you said, Assemblyman Eustace, part of this depends on us getting that property back from the government.
Sure.
So as far as timing, we're talking about 5 years, 4 years, it's not around the corner. I mean, this is strictly support for design theory.
Right.
Otherwise, they can't start anything. But as far as timing, we're talking about, because right now, one of the biggest things that we're dealing with because of the Kin property is getting Steppen to move forward, because we have a, right of decision from them, but there's no time frame for when they're going to be forced to start the cleanup that they are going to be paying for. So, that's one of the issues that's going to procrastinate a lot of this, is what happens there.
Right, and my thought process, if you don't mind, was that this would work in tandem. The federal government, as you well know, is not expedient. I'm sorry. So I thought this would work in tandem. They're certainly pushing the Englewood project as soon as possible, so that's probably a year or two. So the timeline looks like it's 5 or 6 years out. But if you're talking about Congress actually talking about getting money back into North Jersey, we should grab the bull by the horns and tell them, yes, we'd like that. Or else the transportation money goes to somebody else.
Right.
It very rarely goes back to New Jersey. I think it's
Very small.
It's under 20 cents on the dollar, I think.
It's been that way for quite a while.
Yeah, it's the least in the country, and we pay the most in the metropolitan area. So if we're looking to get federal dollars, it's a good idea to have your name etched in the project somewhere.
How does this coincide at the bottleneck on 17? Because there really isn't a good exit onto 17 and going northbound from there.
Right. Well, I think an important part of what's happening with 17 is how the DOT designed everything. It's in many ways it's a black box process where they don't let a lot of people in. I think by the town saying, the borough, saying that they really want a station stop here, and that's a priority in how they're planning and zoning the use of the site adjacent to the bridge itself. It really sends DOT a different set of principles, saying, if you reconstruct this is what we need here. And if you have a consortium of groups, whether it's the borough itself or the counties working together to say, this is a regional asset, this isn't even just a Route 17 asset anymore, it's really important in setting the framework, because once they put the footings down on that bridge, it's going to be set for the next 20, 30 years. They're not going to build a new bridge there. So how that interacts and what your priorities are going to be will help. And the fact that the site that's adjacent to everything that we're talking about here is so important, I think that gives you some leverage to tell DOT that this isn't just a repair of a bridge. It's not just replace in kind. It's something new, especially since it's bottlenecking already, both sides of 17. It already requires something as a new investment.
Now, with that stop, would the train be short enough to not affect Maywood Avenue when it stops?
Yeah, I believe so, because the way that the trains themselves run, they kind of look like a light rail, but they operate like a heavy rail. In other words, it's a shorter train. It's not like a traditional New Jersey Transit 8 to 10 car train. It's a shorter train, something that moves faster in a sense of service-wise. So I don't think it would pose any problems in that sense. I think it would be fine. Mike,
one other thing, you mentioned the county. Has the Bergen County Economic Development, or the BCEDC, gotten involved with this yet?
We just started working with their planning department and through the county executive's office, really briefing them on the activities that have been going on. And they've had a sense of it. I've been working with my counterparts in the county planning office. We haven't had a chance to sit down with their economic development officials and their staff yet. So that's something that we plan to do shortly. Again, also with Hudson County, and keep it going with Jersey City. And what we've done is actually created, we're scheduling meetings throughout the year, regular meetings for the coalition to meet. So Maywood's more than welcome to have a representative there, and really we want to keep adding support and adding people to the coalition to really sort through all of our issues. So when we do get those design dollars, we're ready to go. we're not bringing townships on board and sorting through issues. We already have everything on the table to work with, which is it is a really big deal. It can't be overstated how important that is for funding. I think you've seen different rail lines have a big delay because they can't get a community on board, or they have to convince someone, a specific design aspect of what they're looking at. So it's really important to have these types of coalitions.
Isn't it DEP who's going to, hold us up to coming up with a no further action required on that property before we can start developing?
For the property, more than likely, yes. But I think you could do a lot of things before that, whether it's master planning the property, zoning the property, and looking at the rail line, having all of those priorities set. You want that ready once you get the NFA. Once you get the NFA, you're basically in the clear, and then you can move forward. But the rail line itself is already there. It's already operating freight rail service. It's rather infrequent on this portion of the line, so it's there. There's a precedent for it already.
Now we're talking about bringing more traffic to our neighbors' backyards at that point. That's what we're looking at.
Yeah, there would be more passenger, there would be more rail traffic through the back of their yard. It would be different than a freight. The freight's, while moved slowly, is very loud and can be a bit noxious. It's not the friendliest of services to run on the rail line.
It'll go through quickly.
Yeah. These would be, also they would improve the actual facilities themselves and be quieter.
Now, would getting this done be contingent upon fixing that bottleneck because it's directly across the highway from where you're talking about?
Correct.
So,
I don't think that it's necessarily contingent on it,
okay.
but it could help it.
Because I would imagine that's why Rochelle Park isn't too keen on getting this done.
Yeah, it's not contingent upon it, but it would help it in the fact that if you're already spending dollars and breaking ground on a project that's adjacent to it, you could get some other assets in funding that's already being spent. I think that's a real key to a lot of projects that are moving today, is using that $1 to do several things, whereas in the past, there's really separate pots of money to do everything, and that doesn't exist anymore. So that's the beauty of this line. There's all different types of assets along it that allows to leverage different types of funds. So we think that's an opportunity to use whatever DOT is doing there to improve everything around it. And that's why moving a lot of the townships, moving a lot of the counties in support of this helps us push DOT in the direction that they should be going, quite honestly.
This might be a simple question, an obvious question, but is it your experience that developers are more likely to build around a facility that has mass transit as opposed to one that doesn't?
Yes.
So would probably be a property more.
It's a pretty significant trend across the country and in New Jersey. I think one of the best examples of that is to look at Harrison. What's developed over the last 5 years around the new planned train stop there is nothing but remarkable. I think they put up 5 to 7 new blocks of development around it, and it's really jumping off a new reality for that city there. So, not saying it's going to be the same, but we do see the developers really keying in because it's a fixed asset. They know it's not going away.
I think the problem we have that may prohibit some of the growth is step in itself, because they're not leaving, and that's there. So, it's not exactly the most conducive kind of a operation to have around a transit hub or quote-unquote transit village.
Right.
It's a lot of acres over there, though.
But just to be clear, Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind, it's not that Rochelle Park is opposed. They do not want a train station.
Okay. They're not opposed to the line. They just
No one's necessarily opposed. They just were not interested in a train station.
Right.
Thank you for clarifying.
So where you have these circles on the map of proposed stations, does that mean you sat down with Hackensack and they were into it and almost
Yes.
was?
Yes.
So
Yes, these are station stops that were actually designed when this was ready to be built in 2005. These actually gone through a design process with New Jersey Transit, and that first phase, we had a lot of it really worked out with an environmental impact statement and all the pieces you need. So that's why we have them on there. We didn't put anything on the red part because we don't want to get ahead of ourselves yet. But those stations were designed and ready to go.
And Mr. Attorney, if I could jump in, and DOT had no interest in talking to Maywood at all when the plans were first made. And I went to DOT several times as council president and as mayor to say Maywood should be included in the design process. and they were never interested in talking to us. Now that they're talking about a redesign, I think it's a good idea to have our foot in the door, no matter what you decide to do. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because if you're on the plan, you don't have to do it, but if they decide to do it, you're in. Just a suggestion.
Once again, the scene that changes, like up in P-PAC, before and after that, growing up in that area for years. and
Yes.
When the train came there, there was a huge development in that
Yeah.
area.
Yeah. It's right, and I think, one begets the other. They see an investment, they see that the developers follow that. They see that there's faith in a place that they're putting in a train stop, and again, it's a fixed asset, so they can't just move those things, and so it's very attractive for the development community, especially right now.
If you get the okay, the go-ahead to create the plan, how long does it take to create it? How long will it take before you have a plan that has...
Before we have everything designed,
Yeah.
it'll probably take at least 6 months to a year, because you're going through also the federal environmental impact statement process, but the design aspect of it would move faster. That part would probably take around 6 to 9 months, where we would sit down with everyone and start setting the actual engineering to design everything. And that's the phase we really want to concentrate on, and then you plug that into the environmental impact statement. They have all of the pieces that they need to determine the impacts. And we already have the first phase. We had quite a bit of it already finished, so we'll piggyback off that and get it finalized. It's the second phase that's a little more open right now, and things that we have to do new. So I think it's a real opportunity for here to really just refresh what we have there and have it ready. The red phase is going to be a little bit more work, but we want to do it all at once, but focus on this first phase to get it construction ready as fast as we can.
Did it look like you had, the way it said, you mentioned before, the two phases? Are you hoping that they would be simultaneous?
We do.
Because obviously, the blue line without the red is
It's got a lot less ridership, and that was really one of the walls that we hit in the first go-round, is that the federal government didn't really believe in the connection from Hawthorne to Hackensack, although there's a tangible nexus between Hackensack and Patterson. There's a lot of workforce connections between the two. We know there will be ridership, but if we can connect that to the Tunnel Ave station and really envision it as one project, it's going to boost everything in the project. And it makes a whole lot more sense connecting to the northern branch and looking like a network in North Jersey. So, yeah, that's why we really stepped back and rethought what we were looking at there. And we're going to double our efforts on that second phase and dig in there. And we're already looking at how do we get around certain design aspects and how do we look at those communities and start reaching out and seeing what they think.
Right.
It's new for them, so it'll be
Sure.
a little bit different.
Thanks.
I have a question, Steve. If we decide to go along with this, do you have a sample resolution, or is this something that...
You can certainly get you a sample resolution.
Absolutely.
I appreciate your time. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. And I'll leave my cards with you.
Thank you. Have you had your estimate?
Don't give up too much for Lent.
Do you have your estimate? She's beheading you. Cookies.
Cookies.
Yeah. So I'm talking.
Yeah, send me an email, call me, and we'll go for it. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I imagine this is very interesting to you as well.
Honorable Mayor and Council, we should engineers report dated the 5th for tonight's meeting. The first item on the list is the Economic Recovery Program. Last meeting, I mentioned that we made a submission to the Borough of Paramus' engineer for review and signature of the application. They did sign it. We received it back this past week. We received the fee check for the BCUA from Ms. Stern. Tonight we'll be making a submission to the BCUA this upcoming week. And then we'll be subsequently filing with the DEP so that the project can move forward accordingly. The next item on the list is the PSE&G improvements on Central Avenue. There was work occurring at the intersection of Maywood Avenue and Hergesell. We understand that work had slowed as it relates to current weather conditions, but has been picking up recently as it relates to the work. Again, the paving operations for the roadway is to occur in the spring of this upcoming year, and again, we will be pushing for full width paving. The next item on the list is the 69 kV improvement project. I've left this on the list. There is no update as it relates to it. We have not heard back from PSE&G as it relates to their schedule. The following item after that is the Maywood Avenue streetscape. As I mentioned last month, there was a pre-construction meeting. There's nothing to report other than construction is scheduled to begin April 4th of this year when the weather breaks. The fifth item on the list is the Jersey Avenue Parkway project. That project has some open punch list items, also has some curbing and paving operations that need to occur in the spring, and then that work will be closed out shortly thereafter. The sixth item on the list is the stop sign and location studies. As I mentioned last month, we'd revised the reports, reissued them for consideration. Our conclusions remain, as I stated last meeting, that all were warranted. The seventh item on the list relates to the year 2015 DEP Annual Stormwater Report and Supplemental Questionnaire. Our office had issued a proposal for review and consideration by the governing body. Typically, the Borough DPW prepares this report and submits it online. If there was any help or the Borough would like us to prepare it, we submitted that proposal for review and consideration otherwise. The next item on the list relates to a letter that we received from PSE&G, which requires a response from the Borough. It's the year 2015 and year 2016 roadway improvement projects. What occurs is we submit a list of roadways or potential projects. It doesn't mean that the borough's tied to any of those locations for projects that would occur in 2016 to alert PSE&G so that you don't pave a roadway and then have them a couple months later rip it up and then repave the roadway, not to our specification. So if the governing body would like to consider some roadways, we would include those within our letter. Again, you would not be tied to those locations, and that's not to say that you couldn't add something in the future if you chose to reallocate any funding you chose to move forward with. The ninth item on the list relates to a community development block grant that you've received from Bergen County for ramps where there are no ramps, ADA ramps present. I've listed them in the report, those specific locations. We've submitted a proposal for review and consideration by the governing body to design those and then also construction manage those. An item that's not on the list, which we had submitted, was the FuzzWrap site. We had received some documentation as it related to their sanitary sewage discharge. We issued a bill back to the borough so that they could be charged accordingly. Yesterday we received the water tables for both the Maywood and Lodi properties, and we'll be preparing bills for the tax collector to submit to each of those individual large industrial and large commercial users. That concludes my report. I'd be glad to address any questions or comments that the governing body had.
Two quick things.
Sure.
Number 5 of Jersey Avenue, just to let the mayor know, I did mention the issue with on the corners that we discovered out walking on Canines one night. That is on the punch list.
Correct, it is.
Greg has informed me, so that will be taken care of. And the stop sign location studies, could you possibly resend that off to the chief?
I'd be glad to.
I couldn't find his copy
Okay.
of the revised notes, comments. But thank you.
Anyone else have any questions?
Greg, you had mentioned going on number 2, the PSE&G improvement on Central Avenue, that you or your firm is going to kind of stress and really push for a full pavement.
Correct.
Are they actually contemplating not full paving it?
Well, originally when we had the meeting, I would say in the summer of last year, there was some discussion that they thought that they weren't going to be able to complete the paving during the summer of last year or the fall of last year. And they mentioned at that point in time that there was they would consider doing a half roadway width. We had mentioned and stressed to them, one, that the roadway and the work has progressed at a slower rate of speed, and that by allowing it to occur through the winter and not restoring it through the winter, the roadway as a whole is degraded due to the process and the progress of the project. And we're going to stress to them that because of the way that they move forward with the project, that it's our opinion that it's their responsibility to address the full roadway due to, again, the progress of the project as a whole.
Yeah, I just find it hard to believe that they even consider just doing a partial pave on that.
We agree with you, and we're going to stress to them that it is of utmost importance to pave the full width.
Greg, one last question.
Sure.
On number 9, the ramp improvements, when there are no sidewalks in the area, what do you do with ADA compliance because like in Jersey and Woodland, there's no sidewalks?
Yeah, at those locations where there are no sidewalks, you would at the locations put an ADA ramp so that someone could access the roadway. And what they do then at that point in time have the ability to utilize the roadway and exit off of the sidewalk to then travel down roadways that don't have sidewalks. So it creates an access point so that you don't get stuck on, say, Jersey Avenue and have nowhere to go where you can't access Woodland and then travel in that direction.
Anyone else? Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Meeting open to the public. Anyone from the public wishing to be heard? Seeing no one, close the meeting to the public. Correspondence and report of Borough Clerk.
Okay, just to follow up with the engineer, you did receive both of the requests, correspondence from Neglia regarding the curb cuts and the stormwater. If the council agrees, a resolution would be required for both of those. So whenever you discuss that, whatever, that should be on the next agenda to decide if the resolution is going to be done. The administrator and myself and DPW supervisors been reviewing the bids for the recycling, and we would need a resolution authorizing to go out for the recycling as well. So that's something I guess we should do sooner rather than later.
And actually, the reason we'd like to do it sooner than later is it does give us the opportunity, if we don't like what comes back in, to rebid in a timely way because our contract with Hackensack is up in June.
We should get that put together, I would assume. Get that going, get the ball rolling.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're ready now on our end, so we
Yeah.
just need an authorizing resolution that we could do at the next meeting.
Yeah,
and-
we'll have it on the next meeting.
Okay, and then you also received correspondence from the Fitness Wellness Center on the temporary construction easement, and a thank you letter from Betty Fetzer in the Storage Committee, thanking the mayor and council for their great interest and support in their first Hall of Fame program. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Report of the administrator.
Mayor, the Army Corps of Engineers came in to visit and give us a little bit more of an update, with the progress of what's cleaned, what still has to be cleaned. But they do have another remediation of the wetlands coming up, which is going to require a resolution from the council. I've spoken to Greg about it a little bit. We've gotten information from them. Back in 2011, early 2012, there was a similar project, and a resolution was passed. So I think at the next meeting, this isn't going to happen until May, but, might as well get it going sooner than later, if not the end of February, early March. Just another resolution to cover what they're going to be doing and how many gallons they propose of this water that they're going to be putting into our sanitary sewer, and what they're going to pay us for that discharge. And I just want to compliment Greg for moving along quickly, because for a long time we kind of felt that we were, stalled with that Spring Valley Pump Station renewal, revision or whole new project. And now that we finally have these permits going, hopefully in maybe another month and a half, we can go to bid. 2 months.
It may take a little bit of time, because when we submit to DEP, that has
yeah.
a 4-month review time frame. So
4 months?
Yeah, it does.
Oh. Well, we're doing everything we can as fast as possible, so at least it's moving.
Yeah.
So, want to thank Greg for that. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Rebecca. Report of the Borough Attorney?
So I have a very brief report to give in closed session.
Okay.
Brief? Brief, like right in this room, 5 minutes brief.
Thank you, Ron. Committee reports. Councilman Pavanelli.
I just have the Shade Tree Commission. There were 19 trees that were lost with all the construction on Central down the Church South. So they are looking to get them replaced. They're working with PSC&G and the Borough Administrator to get them replaced in the spring. That is all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Giovino.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the Municipal Alliance, the equipment that was purchased a couple of weeks ago has been delivered, and they've received quotes for banners, and now they're just waiting for the layouts to come in. And on March 24th, the Municipal Alliance Fund has paid for a 3-screen assembly, which will be held at both schools. Children from kindergarten to 3rd grade at Memorial School, and children 4th and 5th grade at Maywood Avenue School will attend a program called Be a Hero, which is an interactive program, and it teaches the students to behave like heroes by standing up for others and for working hard to do what's best. And the 6th to 8th graders at Maywood Avenue School will be attending the program to be amazing, it's called. And this is a focus on self-discipline and working hard, managing their time, and without getting to teach them to not get caught up in negative activities like smoking, drugs, and alcohol. And that was paid for by the Municipal Alliance Fund, and they also were able to do a package where they'll be receiving other stuff included with it, like posters, banners, flyers, and workbooks for the students after the assembly. So it sounds like a really good thing that we'll be providing for the children. And that's all I have. Thank you.
I forgot one thing. I need to remind everybody to please respond to Ms. Donovan regarding the meeting to the children.
March
for
2nd?
March 2nd.
Across America.
Yes, just a reminder.
Thank you.
Okay.
Councilman DeHare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A few brief things. From the Building Department, the permit fees collected in the time period of January 13th up through February 9th is $5,869. From the Fire Department, Truck 17 is back in service here. And last but not least, I attended, as I know many people here did, not only in the audience, but as well as the Eagle Scout ceremony a few weeks ago, which was really a wonderful ceremony. I wasn't aware that they said it was like 2% of the scouts become Eagle Scouts. That is very impressive. So we had three young men to reach that rank. So I just wanted to just mention that. I'm very proud of them. We should all be very proud of them, and thank their parents and the great scout organization we have in town to actually have 3 Eagle Scouts. It was a great ceremony. It's great to see it, and very proud of them. I think we should just make that known. That's it, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeHare. Councilman Messa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First and foremost, Friday, February 19th, the Borough of Maywood is sponsoring the Avengers at the library at 3 o'clock for children. Should be good. I have not concluded my research for the lightning detection system. I apologize. I promised that at the last meeting. I will have that for next time. Bear with me. 36th Annual Maywood Tournament T-shirts are on sale. Very nice way of showing civic pride. If anybody's interested, please reach out to Pete Timmons. He'll be happy to hook you up with one. The Maywood School District is also working with the Maywood Police Department in presenting a Path to Addiction Child Substance Abuse and Prevention. This is going to be a presentation by Detective Chris Levicki of the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office Narcotics Task Force. This is going to take place March 8th at the Maywood Avenue School Large Gymnasium at 7 o'clock. I encourage all parents to put that on their schedule to attend. I've also handed out to everyone on the dais, except for the attorney, the proposal from the chief on the Bloodhound Canine Unit. Take your time, take a look at it, please. The chief will make it a point to attend the next meeting to review the merits of the program, and we'll have questions for him at that time. And lastly, the chief was in receipt of a letter that I'd like to mention. It was from the Passaic Clifton Chatham. I apologize if I'm not pronouncing it correctly, in regards to the situation, the unfortunate situation with the young woman who went missing in January. I just wanted to read a line from this letter that the chief received. It says, quote, "Chief Dave Pegg and the Maywood Police Department were instrumental in bringing the recovery to a speedy conclusion, and for that we will always be thankful. Their sensitivity, determination, and resourcefulness were an object lesson to all who witnessed their activities. We can only hope to be able to emulate them in the future." Just wanted to let everybody know. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Messina. Councilman Marone.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I attended the Board of Education meeting, and they went over the park results. It was sad to see that there was only one parent in the crowd. I just want to read to you some of the things from Maywood, the school level results. In language arts, on average, Maywood performs 16% higher per grade level than the state average in 4 and 5 scoring. There are 5 levels of scoring, and 4 and 5 meaning either meeting or exceeding expectations. On average, Maywood had 21% per grade level scoring at least a 3. Maywood's grades 3 through 5 had a passing percentage of 88%. This is all on language arts. In mathematics, on average, Maywood performed 17% higher per grade level than the state average in both 4 and 5 categories. On average, Maywood had 30% per grade level scoring at least a 3. Maywood's 3 through 5 grade passing percentage was 84%. And Maywood had 24 out of 25 students taking Algebra 1 score either exceeding or meeting or exceeding expectations. So congratulations to Mr. Jordan and all the teachers in both schools really pushing this through when there was a lot of scuttlebutt going back and forth about whether they should take the part or not take the part and what have you. So, I mean, this is only year 1, so they're going to be looking at year 2, year 3 to see how the percentages increase. That's for bit. Just briefly, recycling, we had a meeting last night. We had a tentative, waiting for approval of a shred event for September 17th. There's a shred event happening on April 2nd, Saturday, April 2nd at Borough Community College, and there will also be one, Community Bank will be doing one in May. And just a quick comment on the Read Across America. I know a few of us go every year, and you know, if you can take a sick day, come down to the schools and read to the kids, because it's really a really rewarding morning to read to the kids, and it's quite enjoying. So try to get there if you can, and thanks to the chocolate team. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Marone. Council President Lindenau.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a brief meeting with the acting superintendent of the DPW. He's tidying up around the garage, organizing, taking care of some things that haven't been looked at in years, and getting a handle on what's going on down there. Also evaluating some of the equipment to see, he feels that some of it may be able to be repaired as opposed to replaced, which would save money going forward, so he's going to put together a list on stuff like that for us. And in Green Team news, they are anxiously awaiting the planting season. We have a spring cleanup day, April 2nd, and we have a planting day scheduled for May 7th. We are encouraging anybody who wants to get involved with gardening to please come down. And we are also going to be offering some beds to residents. A limited number. It'll be a first-come, first-serve. We're still working on details on that. So more info to come, hopefully next meeting. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Council President. That literally is Tom and I are the ones building the beds for everyone, so as we get them going, that's how they'll be available. So when he says we're working on it, we really are working on it. You take a look, you'll see there are 3 glass cases, 2 in the back of the room and 1 in the hallway. They're here on delivery. We don't know exactly where the placement will be, but those are going to house some of Maywood's most historic artifacts. We're going to put them in there. The library purchased those, so thank you. Mr. Brown, if you would be so kind as to give my thanks to everyone. April 22nd. It's in the future, but I'm just letting you know there will be a dodgeball tournament at the school for autism awareness. And the reason why I bring that up is because Truck 17, my truck company, will be putting a team in the tournament. I'm trying to get everybody to be in turnout gear, but no one wants to go in turnout gear, so I think we're just going to be in our street clothes. But keep an eye out for that.
So is you suggesting that the mayor and council will participate?
Ooh, I don't know if I can plan 2 teams. Gene could be my stand-in for that one. Well, if you want to put a team together, could be interesting. All right, well, let's talk about that.
Health insurance policy.
My health insurance policy.
Life insurance.
Life insurance.
There are AEDs there too, right?
Yes, we will have them, and they are there in the hallway, that's right. Let's see. Last Thursday, Catherine Fisher, mother and mother-in-law to Harry Hellenius and Maureen Hellenius, passed away at the age of 88, and I would ask that you please keep them in your prayers. And also, on Monday, February 1st, Louis Porto passed away at the age of 87. He was a member of the Knights of Columbus, member of the American Legion Post 142 in Maywood, and a veteran of the United States Air Force. He was also director of the Summer Recreation Program at Memorial Park in Maywood for approximately 7 years. And just a real brief story on Mr. Porto. In October 2010, I was just about getting ready to get to the election in November, and I had to finish up DeSoto. That was one of the houses that I stopped at. Mr. Porto and Mrs. Porto were there, and they invited me into their home. And this was the first time that since I've been doing that someone actually had me in their homes. They sat me at their table, and they grilled me why I wanted to do this, and they gave me a whole bunch of reasons why they thought it was a good idea, and some of the things they felt weren't working in town, and some of the things that were working in town, they could just be better. And I was probably there for about 15 minutes in total, maybe a little longer, but somewhere along the line, Mr. Porto exited the room and came back with a check for me for $50. Now, these people had been speaking to me this whole time about how hard it is to live on a fixed income, and here they were giving me a check for $50. Now, I told them I cannot take this check. I said, there's no way I can take this check. And they were adamant, you must take this check. So I said, okay, I will take it. Now, I did not cash that check. I hung on to that check, and I framed it. And every chance I get, when things are getting a little kooky over here, I look at this check, and this reminds me why I do this. And it was a real special moment. I just wanted to share that. And, you know, the other thing was, they never asked me what party I belonged to while I was there or any time after that. They didn't care. They just saw someone who was running and wanted to do something better for the town, and they wanted to support me. So I will, Mr. Porto and Mrs. Porto, they're missed.
They were both lovely people growing up, and he actually passed 1 year and 2 weeks the day of his wedding.
Wow.
That's right, it's right in here. Yeah, she passed in, it doesn't say that. So they were lovely people. I'm glad you brought that up. Very lovely people. Okay, resolutions by title. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Excellent. So we have number 1, the health and wellness, Harold Croft Avenue sidewalk correspondence. Gene mentioned that. What are they at this point? Do they need anything further from us?
They sent another map
Yeah.
that I have available at the clerk's office if you want to take a look at it. But they do need temporary construction easement to continue, because it is on borough property. So I guess that's something that the borough attorney will have to prepare.
I'll reach out to Karen or Wells people, and we'll make sure we get it all straightened out.
Thank you. Let's go forward with that. They're ready. I'm sure they're ready to start in the spring. They'll be ready to start sometime in spring.
Yes.
Okay. The planning board recommendations regarding ordinance changes.
Which we received back in September for everybody to review.
I know we're waiting to get some of our other ordinances ready to go. I mean, the codes, I think we still have to do this all at once, right, rather than update the code. Or not. What's the wish of council?
Well, we should just address it as a separate item and move forward with that. As far as
So, if you want to discuss if what they proposed is acceptable, then we could have, I know that the planning board attorney has the ordinances that she's prepared to make the changes, if you want to put those for introduction on the next meeting.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they sent them to us. We had the opportunity to look at them, so I think we're ready to go ahead.
Actually, I had a couple of conversations with her about it. I strongly recommend we do them all. I think she had it figured out just right.
yeah, they spent a great deal of time on it. I do agree. They really did their homework.
So we'll put them on for introduction at the next meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Swimming pool parking lot, parking space rentals. Where are we with that, Roberta?
I think we just have to add it to the other locations in the ordinance.
So it's an ordinance amendment. We could place on to the next, if everybody's in agreement. But I think we just need, you want to get the numbers of just the spaces numbered or something?
I think actually that had been done. I'm not sure it's still there. I just have to check with Gary, just so we know. But I mean, when we get ready, we'll just add whatever spaces there are. We'll put that into the ordinance and have that as an additional borough parking lot.
How much interest is there for that particular lot?
I have no idea. We haven't advertised it, but
We just want to make it available.
yeah. I mean, pretty much. I mean, we have very few spaces available now in all our other parking spots. I think maybe 4 or 5 of them in all of the lots. So I think that there always seems to be interest once people know that they're there, and it's going to be the same hours. It's only overnight, certainly not daytime, because that lot is used by both the senior center and the pool. Not so much at that end, but
Pool hours, it's packed, right? So
yeah. Well, this will only be overnight,
From 10
same as all our other borough
yeah,
parking lots. 10 to
8, I think, right?
something like that.
10 to 7. And they can't park there, I think,
It's not a 24-hour one, not like Fairmont. That's the only
That's the only
exception.
one that's
Fairmont,
24, right.
they own those spots once they take them. But all our other borough parking spaces are overnight parking.
What's the thinking about replacing the fence? Are we planning on putting the fence back up?
I'm going to put the fence back. I just didn't want to do it before all the other work was done, now that we cleaned it up. I have an estimate, and, when the weather gets a little bit nicer, I'd like to put the fence back.
Okay.
so we want this introduction on this for the next meeting as well?
Yes, please. Ordinance regarding Chapter 52 employee vacation allowance.
We just need some changes in the language. Gene and I are working on it.
No, why don't we discuss, we're going to be in closed anyway, why don't we discuss that briefly in closed, and then if we're all in agreement, we'll get that on for the next meeting, since we're going to be ordinance happy that day, so we'll go forward. South side report, which is why I asked, we probably could have dealt with this before, but I asked you last time, I just want to make sure, because I think we are going to, I believe we are in agreement with you on this, but is there anything further that we need to do, whether it's with the town, anything at all?
No.
All we need to do is just put this on?
Nothing other than move forward with an ordinance.
Okay. Thanks. Good. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anytime.
Are we okay with these stop signs?
Yeah, I agree.
Everybody else okay with the stop signs replacement? The engineer agrees that he recommends it?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Well, I think we're going to go with that one as well. That was a very productive, very actionable action list. Council, we have no resignations, no appointments, council approval of the following. We have the removal of Samuel Mansell from the Maywood Fire Department, undying company number 1, effective February 9, 2016. Is there a motion for the approval?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Roll call.
Padavano?
Yes.
Trevino?
Yes.
Tahir?
Yes.
Messa?
Yes.
Maroni?
Yes.
Lindanow?
Yes.
Resolution by title.
Resolution 4416, Municipal Alliance Grant Acceptance.
All right. Is there a motion for the adoption?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Roll call.
Padavano?
Yes.
Trevino?
Yes.
Tahir?
Yes.
Messa?
Yes.
Maroni?
Yes.
Lindanow?
Yes.
You like that one, huh, Claire? Tickled your fancy that one, did?
A little bit.
Ladies and gentlemen, is there any new business? Is there any old business?
No.
How about any miscellaneous business? I know we have, the attorney has a closed session item, I do as well, personnel. Anyone else have anything to close? Any contracts, anything?
I think, didn't we have the other ordinance that we want to talk about in close?
That's right, that we just brought up.
Yeah,
Okay. Which would be...
salary.
So it'd be personnel. Okay.
That's fine.
Make a motion to approve.
All in favor? Is there a second, Tom? All in favor?
Be resolved by the mayor and council of the Borough of Maywood pursuant to provisions of the Open Public Meeting Act, mayor and council meeting closed sessions to discuss the following subject matters: personnel and litigation. Be it further resolved that it's precisely determined this time the discussion conducted in such closed session will be disclosed to the public upon taking final action on providing disclosure shall not violate attorney-client privilege or constitute undue invasion of privacy. Be it further resolved the mayor and council of the Borough of Maywood do not envision that we'll return to open session after this meeting, but reserve the right to do so.
Are we going to go downstairs?
I think we will.
I didn't know you had other stuff.